Jesus' hands had been tied behind his back since his seizure. They remained bound during his entire ordeal. They were only unbound for his impaling on the cross. He could not duck or fend off any of the blows. They brought him to the house of Caiaphas, the high priest. The elders and teachers of the law had been called to assemble there. Every member of the Sanhedrin was present. When Jesus admitted that he was the son of the one, Caiaphas was enraged. In his rage, he approached Jesus, grabbing his robe. He ripped and tore it open in the front. The admission and proof did not abate the anger at the calm he saw on Jesus' face. The calm was worse than if Jesus had laughed in his face. The robe fell off of Jesus' shoulders. Now Jesus' upper arms were also restrained. Emboldened by their leader, the nearest priests and the guards spit on him. Many of those hit his face and shoulders, but he could not wipe it away because he was bound. They frothed like rabid dogs that they were. There were a few that were appalled by this display. They did not intervene to keep the pack from turning on them as well. Slapping then escalated when the guard found an old moldy grain sack. They slipped this over Jesus' head so that he could not see. It was very hard to breathe because of the close weave of the cloth. The air that could get through was acrid, bitter, and earthy from the mold. The cloth was raspy and rough and scraped skin off of Jesus' face, and the sweat burned. Once the sack was draped covering his head, they struck him all over his body, and they yelled, "Tell us who hit you. And if you are the son of the one, you would know who struck you." Every blow that would have knocked him unconscious or killed him was healed. Because this was internal, no one could see the healing. The One and the Holy Spirit cried for the pain that the ordeal brought to Jesus. He was beaten soon after midnight until dawn. He was not given food or water, and he urinated on himself in his clothes. Thomas was huddled in a corner, unable to stop the beating, only able to bear witness. Thomas was very afraid. He had wisely not spoken to anyone since entering. His silence bought him invisibility, because his accent would have marked him as a Galilean as well. At dawn, when the vote was taken, it called for Jesus' crimes being worthy of death. The Sanhedrin ordered the next rotation of the temple guards to lead him away to the Roman governor Pontius Pilate. The assembly went to accuse Jesus in front of Pilate. When Pilate could not find just cause to execute Jesus, he was sent to the Jewish secular leader, Herod, who had jurisdiction over the Galileans. All the soldiers were fresh and eager to abuse Jesus then. Jesus passed through 5 batches of soldiers during the duration of his ordeal. Each contingent heaped their abuse on Jesus for their own reasons. The first batches wanted a claim from the priest. Pilate's guards hated Jews. The special duty was usually very easy because it was the day before Passover. The prison guards just liked their work. The escort for the condemned was just hardened by their work. Each group of soldiers and guards contributed blows that would have ended Jesus' suffering prematurely, were touched and healed by his twin, the Holy Spirit. On arriving at Herod's, Jesus was given relief from the beating because Herod wanted to be entertained. When there were no miracles or replies, Jesus' beatings resumed. Then, in a moment of irony, Herod gave Jesus a red robe to wear. Herod draped it over Jesus' shoulders himself. Herod said, "If you want to be a king, you need fitting vestment robe." The robe had many bloodstains by the time Jesus was turned over to Pilate again. The prison guards were getting into the spirit of the thing at this point. When they asked why such a beautiful robe should drape a criminal, they were told that it was because he was the King of the Jews. After the prisoner transfer took place, but before Pilate saw Jesus again, they had their own turn beating him some more. When that bored them, they made him a crown of gorse. Gorse is a thorny bush which has inward curving wicked thorns. They rammed this torture implement down on his head until it made his head run with trickles of blood. They leaned a staff against him, saying that now he had been given a crown and a scepter to match his red robe. When Pilate heard that the problem of Jesus was back in his lap, he decided to offer Jesus as the selected prisoner to be freed. This was the tradition and custom instituted by Rome to appease the Jews at Passover. Pilate confronted the Sanhedrin again about the unjust and groundless charges. They would not be dissuaded from their hatred of Jesus. Pilate was trying to find some middle ground because his wife had a premonition dream warning him about killing this Jesus. In the horrible dream, she had seen Pilate ruined and his mark on the world tainted. Pilate had Jesus brought out into the crowd to offer his release, but the high priests had been out stirring up the crowd. Not only did they agitate against Jesus, but then suggested that a zealot hero would be a good man to be released instead. The crowd then demanded for Jesus' crucifixion. Pilate was appalled. When Pilate asked who the crowd wanted to be released, Pilate was even more shocked at the choice they made. To have not only a dangerous terrorist released, but in the process to order the killing of an innocent, made him sick to his stomach. The terrorist's name was Barabbas. Barabbas' sole aim in life was the utter destruction of Roman authority. He was a murderer, terrorist, and rabid zealot. Pilate's last try to redeem something for his posterity was to order that a sign be made to name Jesus what he was accused of, at least. The sign would read, "The Son of God, the King of the Jews," and it was written in Latin, Greek, and Aramaic. Pilate's speech stated that he did not believe Jesus deserved to die. Pilate suggested that a good flogging should have been the maximum punishment. He called for a finger bowl used on occasions like this. With the symbolism heavy in the air, Pilate washed his hands, saying, "Let his blood soil your hands. I wash my hands of this innocent's blood. Let it be remembered as being on your head."